Do you ever wonder how great leaders in the community make things happen? When they encounter new, unexpected challenges like a pandemic, how do they continue to successfully make an impact? Welcome to That Sounds Terrific, the podcast that connects you with these amazing people. Get insights on what they do to meet their goals, find out how you can help them in their mission, and learn their methods so you can be more successful at what you do. Welcome to That Sounds Terrific with host Nick Koziol.
Okay, welcome back everyone to another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Joining me today is Rebecca P. Murray, an edutainer, which is like an awesome title that I can't get over. Love it. Thanks for being on the show.
Great to be here, Nick.
Yeah, so we just had an exciting conversation before I hit record, which is so often in my guests. Maybe I should start hitting record sooner, but I know we want to have a great, engaging conversation. That was something that we talked about, like tossing the ball back and forth, and my listeners will know that I love to talk. So this should be an interesting episode. But why don't you start talking a little bit about yourself, like how you came up with this whole great title, Edutainer, a little bit about who Rebecca is.
Yeah, I'm happy to. The first time that I saw Edutainer, someone else was using it. This was years ago, and I was so intrigued by that. What is an edutainer? During the pandemic, when we were all shut in, I, like Neil Carroll, a friend of ours, have a background in video production, and this is how I have made my living in the Skagit County area, which is a fairly small community that is 50 miles north of Seattle and about the same distance south of Vancouver, British Columbia. So we're here in this big agricultural valley where it's sort of like Cheers, where everybody knows everybody else's name. I mean, not quite to that extent, but it's a constant joke around here that you can't meet somebody who doesn't know somebody who knows somebody who knows you, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
like 6 degrees of separation, right?
Absolutely, 6 degrees, and maybe even 5.5 here in the county, if you've lived here for any period of time. So we're shut away. I can't do my job really, and quite frankly, I was growing weary of it, and had been feeling that way for several years, that I just lost my love, and I really couldn't even wrap my head around how quickly this happened, because 10 years ago, this is all I wanted to do, video production. That was all I wanted to do. I started my business mainly because no one in their right mind in the business would have hired me. I didn't know very much. I was not 25 years old, just out of college. I was 50 years old at that time, but I had a very strong passion for it. And I knew that my people skills were good enough that I could convince people to give me the opportunity to show them, actually to help them showcase what they brought to the world in terms of their businesses or their nonprofits and so forth. So I became very busy very quickly. And then about 7 years into it, I just started losing my passion for it and wondered what was going on. How could this happen? And I don't know if you've ever felt this way. If you've lost your passion for something that you had passion for, that feeling of being lost. Have you ever felt that way?
Oh yeah, for sure. We've talked on the side a little bit about, having my career support group, and that's something people go through. Things that they trained their whole lives for professionally, and all of a sudden, something in it has changed for them. That's like, that passion sort of disappeared. So
yeah. It's a hopeless feeling, really, because I look at other people during this time of passion, where is my passion? That's what I would say to myself, just sitting upstairs in my now studio, which I sort of took over as more of a meditation room. And I would sit there waiting for the answer to come, and it wasn't coming. But then I would look at people who had a passion, maybe who were making a film, like my mother was making a documentary at that time. She was traveling all over the world in her late 70s and early 80s. I mean, just totally gripped by passion. And I was feeling like maybe a new passion would never drop in. I mean, it was very, very, very isolating. And then COVID happened.
Right.
But then when COVID happened, that's when things started shifting. And that's when I grabbed on to that edutainer, because I realized what my passion really was to educate people in an entertaining manner, which is really all that edutaining is.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I've called a couple times on my podcast, my experience through COVID, sort of that a COVID renaissance, right? A return to creativity. And I think part of what happened to me was I started to branch off into a career that wasn't ready for me, right? So when you think about fundraising, okay, it's about the relationship. And although a lot of organizations will say it's about the relationship, they don't follow that adage. They say they really mean it's about the money. It's about
Yes.
what you bring in, and here's your goal. Get this, get this, get this. Ask this person for $5,000 when they've never given before and they're not connected. It's not going to happen.
Ooh, yeah, no.
Right. So in a lot of ways, that industry wasn't ready for someone like me, who values the network, who values the person first, and knows, first of all, that there is a lot more for that person to give in the long term if the relationship is done correctly. So what I went through was like a lot of people, I didn't have a job. So during that time, so I started this podcast. I started to kind of think about, what was I passionate about, right? It's about knowing oneself, and it's different for everyone. My passion of sort of left me because of the career trajectory that I was on. I was still passionate about people. I was still passionate about causes and bringing in money to support students or whatever the cause may be. But something in me changed in the way that I wanted to accomplish that goal. So, being stifled a little bit was also what happened.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say the career that wasn't ready for you, and then what happened, it's ready for you now because you helped to shift minds or create something new, bring it in a new way.
I sort of got out. I'm now in a job that's more about business engagement, more about the partnership and helping, and sort of like on the other side of the thing. So the job I'm doing right now is in the Center of Excellence in Data Science and University of Rochester. And its whole purpose is to engage companies with students or faculty or other professionals in order to make an economic impact in New York. So solving data science problems through the center or through the college itself. There's like a couple different things that I can do, like internships, research, lots of different ways to do that. And all we need to do for the center's purpose is to provide that economic impact. Like, do we create jobs? Was there $50,000 worth of cost savings because of the things that they found in the data that caused the company either to save money on salary because they didn't have to have one of their dedicated workers do it, or was it efficiencies that were created because of the things that they found in the data? So I sort of got out. It was sort of a cop out in a way. I didn't accomplish. They're still not quite ready for me, because I did have a great stint with the Alzheimer's Association, a very important cause for me still to this day. I'm still involved with, but in a lot of ways, they are sticking to the best practices of 10 years ago, and not changing, in my opinion, quickly enough to accommodate for this world that we're in right now, post-COVID or sort of post-COVID. Still doing a lot of great things with the walk and all that stuff, but I sort of am not ready to be in that realm, and they're not quite ready for me.
And you're referring back to the Alzheimer's Association, that particular job.
Well, that particular job in fundraising. I use them as an example.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That is a very challenging role. And I think for most nonprofits, finding somebody to fill that role is an ongoing challenge, because it is so difficult. We have so many nonprofits asking for money, asking for donations for the auction, all those sorts of things. In Skagit County, particularly, there is, I used to say, there's a an auction going on every weekend. For a while, it seemed like that there was. This is pre-pandemic, of course. And then most nonprofits went online. They didn't see quite the success online. But when you think about all that goes into fundraising, there is so much. That person has a lot on their shoulders.
Yeah. There's a high burnout rate. And maybe that's part of it too. There's in the alumni world, in the college world, we call it time, talent, and treasure. You want to engage those alumni or prospects in those different areas. And most people are looking for, what's in it for them. Some people, it's like, we had a really awesome donor at Cortland when I was there that, used to work in the apple orchards when he was a student, and all he wanted was a peck of apples sent his way. And he was, writing a crazy check, to support students in their scholarship. And that was the best way to thank him, not an award, not, inviting him to dinners, because he was a very frugal person. So knowing your donor base, and that's like where I really excel. And maybe, there's other positions that I could have tried for in fundraising, like stewardship or, things like that. But, we all, have those moments, like you were saying, where sometimes the passion leaves us. And why is that? Is it something that you're doing? Is it something the organizations you're involved with are kind of placing on you? What has changed? And I'd say that in this day and age right now, there's a lot of change going on at a very quick pace. And there's a lot of news items out there that are being, turned on different angles and looked at and dissected, that make it very hard to kind of figure out what is the real truth, what is the real situation that's going on professionally. So
and I wonder too, I know you're quite a bit younger than I am. I wonder too, if a person gets to a certain point in life where at least for me, I realized, I've 2/3 of my life is already gone. And as if you were looking at it on linearly, you think, okay, this is best case scenario. This is how much time I might have left. And, another 30 years, barring any crazy accidents or illnesses. And it changes. That also does something to a person, changes their focus. And I believe this is interesting. I would love to see some data on this, that when you are young, like thinking back, Neil, to when you were just a young lad, and what excited you, what was your first recollection of either I am really good at something and I happen to enjoy the feeling of doing this thing, being involved in this thing. What was that, if you can remember?
So I've always been that guy that was involved with like 30 different things. So there was never just one thing. When you think about even friends, like I was in the drama club, I was in band, I was, trying to play hockey after school. I had these groups of friends that often didn't sort of like fit in together. So, and that has been, one of the biggest challenges I think of my life, is that, when I, lost my position, I was looking for work. People were asking me, what do you want to do? And I say, I want to help people. And, people are saying, that is too vague. Like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, it can mean a lot of different things. Right. So that has always been my challenge in narrowing it down to one thing. Is hard, because I'm sort of like that jack of all trades, that and I would say master of many, not not master of none. But sometimes corporations or people don't know what to do with that, right? So
but here listen to you though, but here's the common denominator. You, in saying that you had all these different groups of friends that just didn't necessarily overlap, this is exactly how you're using your skill now. When you are talking to all these different people, and the one connection you want them to have is through the university, you are using that same exact skill and passion of being one of these people who can connect with many.
Right. And I
You're
think
like,
that that's the great thing, but focusing that in during a pandemic and trying to figure out where's
mhm.
the salary or the money in that.
That's true. Okay. Yeah. Well, and you start the podcast, which is another
Yeah.
extension of that,
Right.
right? It's another extension. And then just monetizing that passion, that skill to teach people how to better connect even.
Right. And then talking to a person like myself where I don't like to monetize things and I give away a lot of pro bono work, and I
Mm.
love working in a team, and I'm a self-run podcaster. It's those interests. I'm just a weird duck sometimes. So you heard it here, folks. Um, Connect with me and I will help you for free.
I have you ever thought of teaching a workshop on how to develop this skill of connecting with others, how to open a conversation, how to reach out to people, because it has so many different monetizable aspects to it.
Sure.
Sales, customer service, self-confidence, leadership, all of those. I mean, what you are so good at, and maybe helping that group of people who is hard to hire and hard to find, those fundraisers that we're talking about, that are called many different things in many organizations, maybe putting on a workshop for those people specifically, who are new into that, to help them leverage their personality and build confidence to reach out and ask for money and build relationships.
I mean, I think there's aspects of that could work for pretty much, every area of business or, life. So, I
Yes.
mean, I've had enjoyment in like teaching, at a college level and things like that. A lot of it's been, sort of the freshman seminar, right? Or I did do a communications branding course where you talked about like how to use the college brand or your business's brand, and your own personal brand to kind of co-brand together and like uplift it both at the same time, right? So,
Right.
but there's a lot of different avenues, and that's
Yeah.
why, you know I do what I do, with my career support group and all those other things. But edutainment, right?
Yeah.
There's an avenue in
Yes.
that for sure. But
Yes.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what you're doing, to kind of uplift people, and you definitely you're making a terrific impact on me right now, and I'm sure there's others that are listening that would love to be impacted by your thoughts and training too. So
Okay, but I have one more idea I want to share with you first.
okay, she's taking over the
Have you?
show, but that's okay. That's what
I'm
she's here
sorry.
for. No, it's all
I'm just
good.
so excited to be talking about what drives you, and this is a skill that so many people need, Neil, for you to help them do that, because this is the one thing that changes everything in a person's life, is the ability and the confidence to communicate effectively with another human being. And that's exactly what you do so well. And that's exactly how you can help people. I'm thinking about, have you ever thought of going to a high school, the counselors or whoever hire people to come in and talk to groups, and they have budgets for this, to talk to these kids. Because if I ever have a high school group that I talk to, which several times a year I'm invited to, it's always about this topic alone. It's not about, in fact, I read a quote recently. It's 85% of your financial success in life has to do with your ability to communicate and engage with other people. 15% is the technical knowledge that we can use YouTube for or Google it, right? But these kids, they come out of school and do they have any classes on communication skills? Probably not. And this is the one
Not the
thing
kind
that's
you're
going to
talking
help
about.
them. No. And it's the kind that you, in a fun and engaging way, because you are fun and engaging, could bring to those students to open their minds a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And it's funny that you talk about those kinds of skills that students need today coming into class, and top it off on put it all on top of, like, you have your seniors then, and even some juniors now that spent a lot of their advanced years in high school on Zooms, right? And not
Yes,
interacting
yes.
on, and then there's a hybrid now. So like, even a program we're talking about putting together right now, is it going to be in person or is it going to be online? Is it going to be hybrid? What does that mean?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, no, and the other thing that I think is funny, is at I haven't experienced this yet at U of R, but other universities that I have been at, where I've been talking to professors who are upset that their students can't write, that they don't have the skills, the
Mm,
minimal skills to do what they need to do in their class. Also, then turn around and say, well, there's not enough room in the curriculum to have, this intro to writing course that's mandatory, or like a freshman seminar is like a half, what is it, a 1 credit course at most colleges, if it's credit at all. So,
wow.
but I've run into that. You're like, it's like sort of that, I don't know if it's really the carpet for the horse mentality, but it's definitely like, we need students to be better writers. Well, we need to train them on that. So you need to have a course where they're being trained on that. Oh, but we don't want to teach that. Or we don't have room in the
Wow.
program for that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you need to accept
Basic.
students at a higher level, right? But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
so
And
yeah.
what you're teaching too, I could see, you're teaching communication in 2 dimensions, which would be what we're doing right now. Maybe you might even talk about this as 1 dimension. And then in 3 dimensions, multidimensional, is when you're face to face and in person, which is totally different. Aren't you surprised sometimes when you meet somebody for the first time in person? Like, I thought you were really short, or I thought you were really
Right.
tall. I had a totally different view of a view from 3 dimensions, and you have to recalibrate your brain to wrap around this new view of this
Yeah.
person that you're meeting
Yeah.
for the first time in a human form, right?
Right.
So it's completely different, which is why those in-person classes are critical.
Yeah.
Critical.
Yeah. I mean, there's still, despite being a very Zoom capable world, there's still moments where you want to be in person. And
Yeah.
a lot of our students, aren't used to that. And even
Mm-hmm.
before, when it was all in person and there was no Teams and Zoom and all that stuff, you do encounter that. Students didn't and weren't prepared for the face-to-face interaction. That's why I think you're seeing, like, there's a number of colleges that do it really, really well. Experiential learning, co-ops and internships have always been sort of a high focus, but
Oh,
you're
yeah.
seeing more of a trend in that kind of apprenticeship learning.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
I
Yes.
and I think that
Yes.
you're going to see more of that too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
But
all
it
right,
kind of goes back to the old days, right?
right,
Where if you had a good high school counselor or a work-learn center on campus that you could walk in and say, I want to be this when I grow up, and then somebody will help you find an internship somewhere, or maybe even a paying job on campus, so
hmm
that you can try it out and see if what you thought you wanted to do is really what you're passionate about.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So going back to me, I know you've been wanting to drive the conversation back to me.
well, you are
I
the
think a lot.
guest.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I I think a lot about confidence. It's something that I speak a lot about, because I do believe that one's barometer of confidence inside has a lot to do with not only how one shows up in the world or is willing to show up in the world, but their level of happiness, their
Right.
level of satisfaction with themselves. And so I came up with this was one of my creative stints during the pandemic, which started off as a workshop, turned into a keynote, then transitioned to a larger workshop at a conference, and finally a one-woman show in 3 dimensions in a theater a year ago in September, where I filled the audience, and so people had to have masks back on again then. But
hmm
it was such a thrill to perform this one-woman show. And the title of it is The Confidence Equation.
hmm
I believe that there is a mathematical equation. We see math everywhere in nature, right? The 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, from this seashells to an octopus to pine cones, and we see this mathematical equation playing out all over the place. And I came up with this idea, okay, if there's a mathematical equation that explains so much in nature, then why isn't there a mathematical equation that explains how confidence works? And in thinking about that, I thought, actually, there is an equation. And it goes like this. It's C, it starts with courage. C equals E plus K, which is experience plus knowledge. So every time you exert a step of courage, you have the opportunity to gain knowledge, to gain experience. And that leads to MC squared, which in this case is confidence in me, or MC squared, confidence in me.
Mm-hmm.
But what kicks off the equation is doubt, which we all have plenty of, which comes
like my math skills.
Yes. So it comes out of nowhere. You have this brilliant idea. This is usually how it works for me. I have a brilliant idea. And if I wait too long to act on it, to take the step of courage, if I think about it too much, then the doubt comes in. Somebody's already done this, probably better than me. This is a dumb idea. People will think it's stupid. It'll never work. I don't have the time for it. Whatever it is. Doubt, 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 doubt. And if you start thinking of doubt as a Kickstarter for courage and thinking of that, it's sort of the fuel, the igniter. Okay, when the doubt comes in, that signals me to just do it anyway. And whatever the outcome, whether I expected the expected outcome, the hoped for outcome, or a different outcome, I still gain those two things, which is experience and knowledge. And if I allow myself to move forward through the experience and knowledge and congratulate myself for more knowledge and more experience, then I can step into more confidence. If I shame myself and focus on the outcome only, I mean, you think about the great innovators, the great scientists, Chester Carlson, who came up with the Xerox technology, and really it took 30 years of not letting go of his dream and convincing people that this could work, and billions of dollars. And to finally, his dream came true. But when he would be in the garage or the little hovel of an office that they had for many years, and trying things, most of them did not work. And he would simply say, that's interesting, and try something else.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that is talk about passion, right? Not losing the passion about a project, because something failed. Like failure, I've heard lots of explanation about like why you fail at something, but giving up on a thing after one setback, right? You have to be committed to your cause, and you have to have that passion to kind of keep it going. Like, so I think that's really great.
Yes. Yeah. I remember when I started at 51, technically, I guess, when I started my video business, I didn't know, the only thing I knew is that I loved video. That's all I knew. I knew nothing about cameras. I knew nothing about audio. And what I would do after every single mistake, and I made so very many, is I would say, okay, only 999,000 more mistakes to go until I'm competent. I have one less, I'm going in the right direction of making mistakes, because of course, that's the only way you're going to learn. And some the very, very hard way, like getting carpal tunnel in your fingers.
No, I get it. And like learning is important, and throughout all your processes, you take it from a sports point of view. You don't necessarily like you only really lose a game if you don't learn anything from it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So, and I know there's tons of sports fanatics that would totally disagree with me on that, because you lost because you and you're
yeah. Right. I hear my husband in the living room.
Win.
What are you doing?
Winning is great too, but like if you win, you don't learn from that win, you can lose the next time, right?
Oh, yes, that's good too.
So it's always important to be learning in sports and everything. Like, and that's where I think some of the great minds of like business they are always learning. Even when they win, when they get the
Mhm.
leading product, they don't just sit back on their heels, right? And say, well, got the iPhone all set up, everything's great. No one's going to beat
Yeah,
us
right.
now. Let's just keep on pumping out the same iPhone. No, don't
Right.
update the camera. Nope. You know, so there's always innovation, and you're always going to be in competition with somebody in some way, shape, or form with any idea that you have. So,
Yeah. The cool thing about innovators too is, I think about Steve Jobs, Chester Carlson,
yeah.
some of the great innovators of our time, Benjamin Franklin, going way back, and so forth, is their passion was always bringing something better to the people,
Hmm.
making something better, easier, more efficient for the people, for others.
Right.
And that heart-centered innovation is what kept them going. And if we can have that same idea in our minds too, when we are in making life better for people around us, and even ourselves, the way we go through an experience, take a chance, take the step of courage, build our knowledge and experience, and step into a happy place versus my expectation wasn't met. Now I'm bummed. Now people around me have to come and say, oh, I'm so sorry that happened, that kind of thing. And every now and then, of course, we need to be built up. But if we can be an example to others of, this is how I treat myself with
Mhm.
respect when things don't work out, like a scientist, like an innovator,
Yeah.
think about Madame Curie, like, I can't believe how many mistakes I made.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. And to have,
Just,
uh, and to still be confident after that. I think you
yeah,
are showing that, like, not that you made a lot of mistakes, but, you said you made a lot of mistakes. Um, but you're showing confidence in what you do and what you know, right? And how
yes,
that is perceived is that people are gravitated towards confidence. Um,
truly,
so do you have any
truly.
suggestions for like how to get people started on that road to being confident, to be or being more confident? Like what is a suggestion from your repertoire?
I think there is nothing that can help shift the confidence meter faster than taking a public speaking course, and taking it in 3 dimensions if possible,
Mhm.
being with other people, learning how to just put yourself out there, step up, speak out, receive feedback, not to shame yourself. Wow, I didn't do that perfectly. It's the first pancake principle is what I call it. The first pancake is not supposed to be the best pancake, but the first pancake, which seasons the pan and creates that even heating surface, makes way for better pancakes, the full stack, the butter, the syrup, all that stuff. And so
Awesome.
to have that mindset, to have the courage to take a public speaking class, and then put your expectations of perfection out the window. Just keep trying to make that first pancake and be happy that you did it.
You're speaking more of my language now than the math. All right, let's talk about food. All right, getting me hungry. It's hungry for confidence, though, right? So I think that
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And but some people are so terrified about, well, you think about video, terrified of being in front of video. There's no
Yes.
confidence in front of that. And so, to kind of build on what you're saying, obviously one of the best things to do is maybe try out a course like in public speaking, and get some peer help and some professorial help from
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the
Like
experts.
Neil Carroll's course, for
Yeah.
example, is a really good one. It's a
Yes.
really, to build your confidence on video, and then take it a step further, because that is terrifying for most people to put themselves out there like
Sure.
that. It's absolutely terrifying. Sometimes it terrifies me. But again, it's that doubt, taking the step of courage, doing it anyway, putting it out there. Don't beat yourself up if people aren't like, wow, you're amazing, because I look at all my videos on YouTube, and some of them have 0 views. But but I did it anyway. You know
Mhm.
what? I learned something in the process of sharing, like my cancer journey last year, right after
Mhm.
that one woman show. Within 4 weeks later, I had a biopsy and I had breast cancer. And so I went through that whole thing into actually June of this year. I'm done. I've had a double mastectomy. Went through all of that. And what really helped me through that, have the confidence through that, is that I shared each little piece of my journey as I was learning about what was happening next, to help other people understand these little nuances that doctors don't necessarily share, or we can't absorb. Our brain is on fire, with this diagnosis. But anyway, I think I went a little off topic here.
No, I think
Neil
brought up
class. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Neil, like bringing up what you just brought up, I just want to highlight. We need more people that are terrific in that sense, like you. There are so many people that don't have anyone else. So when you think about having something like cancer, and I'm glad that you're okay and that you've gotten past that point. There's people that just don't have that support system, and it's something as big as cancer, down to how to make a video or other things that are maybe a little more trivial than that. To have someone like yourself go on there and kind of, this is my story, this is what I'm dealing with, here are the questions you should be asking your professionals, here are the things you should be asking yourself. They're in a world that has so much access to instant video and instant knowledge. Too much of it is, I think, placed upon what's the news flash, the negativity thing, and not enough on the people that are doing some positivity in the world. So I wanted to call attention and thank you for that, for sharing your journey, because I think that's important. And then, like you were saying with Neil, this is actually I just recorded a promo video for him today, so it's kind of fun to brought him up, just because he's the video portion of the podcast would not exist if it weren't for him. So yeah.
He's fabulous.
For sure.
He's fabulous. I tell him, I don't really teach those things anymore. I started off the pandemic teaching those skills because I saw so many people that desperately needed to know how to show up well in this two-dimensional frame that we're seeing here. But it's not true. It's not my passion. And so I encourage people to reach out to Neil, like people that come to me for that. I say, no, I'm not the best person, but I know somebody who is. So
awesome.
I refer them to Neil for that support, because you and other people that I've met through Neil have raved about how this kit that he sends and helps you set up and gives you the confidence and the skills and the training to show up well and do what we're talking about.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we do stick to what you're passionate about, right? You could teach people how to do the same things. But is your heart going to be fully in it? Are you, do you have the time for the things that your heart is fully in? So I think that's another example of what people need to consider, not just confidence, but what is the things that you want to focus on. And it's important to make time for the things you're passionate about.
Yes. Yes.
And I could honestly, I could talk to you forever, Rebecca. What is one other thing that you want to kind of touch on? Because I know we're kind of getting close to time here.
Yes. The one thing I would ask anyone who's listening, if you're listening, to think back to your earliest memory, like you and I talked about, Neil. I hadn't shared mine, but I'll do that quickly. When I have a picture of myself at the age of about 2, and on the back, this is, in the old days when you used to have to take film to get developed, and you would get it back. And then this picture right here, it's has a writing surface on the back that has, you could take a pencil or a pen. And my parents wrote, she dances, she sings, she plays the harmonica, then claps for herself. Then claps for herself. And I still do that. Clap for yourself when you take a step of courage. Clap for yourself when you gain experience and knowledge. And by clapping for yourself and being your own best audience, you can step into the confidence zone firmly. That's my takeaway.
Wonderful. You know what? I'm not even going to add to that, because I think that's just a terrific thing to end on. So Rebecca, thank you for being on the show. I urge people to reach out to you and to obviously connect with Rebecca, an edutainer at the finest, right? So all that information will be in our show notes. And I'm Nick Koziol, and thanks for being on the show, Rebecca.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us in another episode of That Sounds Terrific. Don't forget to check out the show notes and our website at thatsoundsterrific.com to find the contact information and the best ways to volunteer with the organizations that we feature. If you know someone that is doing terrific things and think they should be featured in a future episode, be sure to email us their name, contact info, and short description of what they're doing at thatsoundsterrific@gmail.com. If you like our show, give us a 5-star rating and give us some social media love by liking our Facebook page, That Sounds Terrific. Follow us on Twitter at Sounds Terrific 2 and Instagram at Sounds Terrific. We love hearing your feedback on how to make our show sound even more terrific. Till next time.